Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Oh, try again. Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Hello, hello, hello. Well, today it does feel like Groundhog Day to me. It's another beautiful day. Wish it was easy to move the camera. I have a fence around the new grass where this tent used to be, and there's little droplets on the horizontal pieces of fence. You know what it looks like. You can create an image of them. And the sun is behind them, so each one is an iridescent, brilliant spot. Quite remarkable. It's wonderful to have vision this morning. Wonderful, grateful. I got to get up and do the morning ritual. Jennifer stayed in bed, and I got to make the coffee and take it down the hall doing the cry of the Indian coffee walla. The coffee, 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 which I've been doing for about a decade now when I get the chance, when she stays in bed, so I can do it. So here it is. We're awake again. We're awake from sleep, and also we can be awake from our slumber of greed, hatred, and ignorance. So thank you for coming. I mean, who gets to get up in the morning and have coffee in a nice comfy place and then walk out into the backyard tent and then get together with friends to meditate? I mean, who gets to have that? It's too cool. Absolutely too cool. So, let's join in a little song. I just thought of Mr. Rogers. He's one of my great heroes. It's important for me to pause. We have this little ritual of singing this cute little song. But it's really profound. I feel like my life for the last 50 years has been trying to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. More and more realizing that everything else, really everything else, is temporary. It's hard to let that in. That's why we get surprised when we get sick or when someone dies. How could it happen? Well, of course it happens. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Let's join the millions of people who down through time have heeded the call from within. There is something that calls you, isn't there? There's an intuition, a premonition, a sense of, yes, this is the way. This is the way for me to be really happy and free from suffering. It doesn't have to do with achievement or gathering together stuff. It has to do with just being here in this moment. What a relief. So what is your ritual for beginning? I like to clarify my intention. I want to be awake here. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in each moment, this moment. Most probably, most times my intention is I'll use the breath for some stability, concentration, and then open up to just whatever's arising. I like to check in with the feet. Life, in this instance, a little cool from a breeze. The life in the hands. Lots of life there. The life in the face. There is awareness and life. and home to the breath, the natural communion of this body with all of life. Each breath has its moment of birth. It comes into being. It lives its lifetime and then it vanishes. Mindfulness is our superpower. It's so powerful that it can cut through greed, hatred, and ignorance that have driven this process of staying alive for a lifetime and actually for billions of years of life. Mindfulness is the quality that sets us free. We mix it with curiosity and persistence and joy and tranquility and concentration and equanimity. And we have a wonderful soup of awakening. It's mindfulness that notices, that awakens when the mind is wandering. It's mindfulness that remembers to do this. It's mindfulness that remembers, oh, my intention is to stay with the breath, home in the body. When sounds come, to notice sounds. When thoughts come, to notice thoughts. And to do all of this with no violence, no coercion even. It's really to participate in the natural awakening of which I am part. Each breath, every life experience has a beginning. It has its rising to fullness. Come home to it. Come home to yourself. This is creative work that only you can do. You have all the tools that are needed. And it behooves us to practice with small things, small challenges. There will be plenty of big ones. There will be challenges where we wonder, can I even face this? And yes, in fact, we can. And we develop a meditative capacity which is resilient. Coming home to here and now. The mind may be wandering or it may be quiet. There may be a sense of purpose this morning and clarity and meaning, or this might be one of those moments of wondering, what am I doing here? Maybe a day in which the relationship or relationships that surround you are relatively at ease, or maybe very pleasant even. Or there could be deep questions or discomfort or conflict. This is the nature of life. And we can stabilize ourselves here now with this breath. we practice with what the Buddha termed bare attention. In fact, we're not even really paying attention to the breath, which doesn't exist. By the time the middle of the breath is reached, the beginning is gone. So how could we pay attention to the breath? But we can pay attention to the sensations of life, which are created in the act of breathing. And so our experience is very poignant, precise. This, as Ajahn Chah put it, this moment is like this. What if it's true that there really is nowhere to get to? That this moment is the only important moment. It's not that you're meditating now so that this afternoon in that meeting you'll be more conscious, or you're meditating now so you'll stop being so irritable with the children, or you're meditating now so your blood pressure will go down. These are all useful strategies and applications. But what's really true? Right now there's this. And let us practice with an attitude of love. Not the love of romance, a much less exciting love than that. The love of holding ourselves in an infinite embrace. Consider yourself what you are, a one-of-a-kind creature, a being in an infinity of universe. And your presence here is unique, extraordinary, and worthy of all the love you can possibly transmit through your entire being. Probably in your psychological, emotional, neurotic structure, there's some self-hatred, some self-judgment, loving even that, making room for everything. And the great mantra, I love you, with your name at the end. Perhaps your name when you were a small child. Or if in this lifetime you've experienced some trauma that you carry with you, which most or all of us do. Some event or events happened that were beyond your capacity to metabolize them. Love that part of yourself. The limited part, the limiting part. So on the in-breath, the blessing can be whatever it would be for you. What would you like to say to yourself in your best moments? And then on the out-breath, offering that to someone else. Someone it's easy to love, perhaps. Maybe a teacher that you've had in your lifetime. Maybe a pet. Lie back in the arms of love. With each breath, relaxing more. More and more here into the present moment, into the love which is your true nature. And if there's resistance to this, then why not love that too? It's all part of us. And coming now to that moment when you realize, I'm going to surface now. I'm going to move on to the next thing in my life. Notice the intention to let the eyes open. Seeing. Perhaps at some point stretching. But let the transition into what we think of as daily life be smooth and incorporate the intention to be mindful in all activities. I had a poem this morning. I think I'll share it with you now. I thought of this, I was reflecting on the last few days on the move toward individuation and autonomy, to being able to let people have their own feelings, to let our loved ones have their own feelings and experiences, and neither have to rescue them nor feel bad with them. And the reflections on death are very helpful with that, because these people that are so close to us, so important to us, are the persons who in this lifetime played the role of that person. And they're coming and they're going. This is a little longer. I'm going to read it just once. Aboriginal Landscape. It's by Louise Gluck. "You're stepping on your father," my mother said. And indeed I was standing exactly in the center of a bed of grass, mown so neatly it could have been my father's grave, although there was no stone saying so. "You're stepping on your father," she repeated louder this time, which began to be strange to me, since she was dead herself. Even the doctor had admitted it. I moved slightly to the side to where my father ended and my mother began. The cemetery was silent. Wind blew through the trees. I could hear very faintly sounds of weeping several rows away, and beyond that a dog wailing. At length these sounds abated. It crossed my mind I had no memory of being driven here, to what now seemed a cemetery, though it could have been a cemetery in my mind only. Perhaps it was a park, or if not a park, a garden or bower, perfumed, I now realized, with the scent of roses, douceur de vivre, filling the air, the sweetness of living, as the saying goes. At some point, it occurred to me I was alone. Where had the others gone? My cousins and sister, Caitlin and Abigail? By now, the light was fading. Where was the car waiting to take us home? I then began seeking for some alternative. I felt an impatience growing in me. Approaching, I would say, anxiety. Finally, in the distance, I made out a small train. Stopped, it seemed, behind some foliage. The conductor, lingering against the doorframe, smoked a cigarette. "Do not forget me," I cried, running now over the many plots, the many mothers and fathers. "Do not forget me," I cried, when at last I reached him. "Madam," he said, pointing to the tracks, "surely you realize this is the end. The tracks do not go further." His words were harsh, and yet his eyes were kind. This encouraged me to press my case harder. "But they go back," I said, and I remarked their sturdiness as though they had many such returns ahead of them. "You know," he said, "our work is difficult. We confront much sorrow and disappointment." He gazed at me with increasing frankness. "I was like you once," he added, in love with turbulence. Now I spoke as to an old friend. "What of you?" I said, since he was free to leave. "Have you no wish to go home to see the city again?" "This is my home," he said. The city is where I disappear." We have this moment. Perhaps I'll remind us. Some of you knew, maybe, Diana Rummelhigh. She came to these morning gatherings really a lot. Often she didn't have her camera on, but there she was, day after day. And a few days ago, 2 days ago, I received the announcement from her husband that she had suddenly died. She had a heart attack one day and died in the hospital the next day. Poof. I don't know how many years she's been around PIMC. It's been a while. Jennifer remembers inviting her to my surprise birthday party 2 years ago. So at any moment, we could be stepping off the train. So why would we not be loving of each other? I talked to someone, a man who went down a couple of nights ago down in Portland to the federal building and watched the events there, and he said he got a glimpse of the faces of the federal troops as they were rushing out of the building to drive the protesters away for a block. They came out, drove the protesters a block away, came back and went back in the building. And he said they are young boys frightened. And covering it with anger, of course. And as is true with everyone there, really. So, whatever we do in terms of activism, let us open our hearts to ourselves and the beauty and the suffering of this moment, because it's what we have. And the very dukkha of that is what wakes us up as we awaken to it. I have a couple of announcements. One of them is this picture that I just got. Get a load of this if it'll work. Can you tell me is there a picture up there now? No. Well, this is frustrating. I selected it and it didn't go to the right place. Let me try one more time. No, I'll skip that and I'm going to go to this. All right. How about that? Is there a picture now? I can't see anybody. Could someone speak? Is the going deeper thing up here?
Yes.
Okay, good. Saturday, August 1st. Isn't this a gorgeous image? This was made by Molly Balin, who's Gregory's wife and our graphic designer media person. It's really quite incredible. There's Candle. There's me. And this is coming up soon, Saturday, August the 1st. Please consider coming to participate in that. You will not regret it. It'll be a great day. Then there's another thing to share, which is this. Let's see if you get a picture. Have you got a picture? A different picture? No? Yes?
Yeah, it's doing something.
Oh, I see. Is it there?
It said started screen sharing.
Huh.
That's it. Maybe try again.
Try again. That's a familiar thing, isn't it? Why not try again? Here we go. How about now?
Now it's all white.
Oh. Oh, well. I'll
It said pinch out for a bigger view.
Okay, I'll describe it instead. There's a picture of a book cover. It's green. It says Mindfulness for a Happy Life by Robert Beatty with Laura Musikanski. I'm told it's a great read. And lastly, I'll just come back to you guys here. This is silly to try to do that. It's frustrating that it doesn't work. Mildly frustrating.
There you go, Robert.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Hey, good. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. And if you purchase from Amazon, please consider writing a review, because the reviews make a big difference somehow. I guess that's enough. Enough advertising. I wish I could show you I'm going to try one more time this beautiful new picture that I was gifted with. Is that showing a picture?
Nope.
Ha! Well, oh, wait a minute. No. Oh, here we are.
There. Yes.
Is that not a nice picture? I think I would call it home. So, that was the other day. I was in the mountains with Chris and Takaki, who are creating the what's it called? Documentary about PIMC and me and us and our journey back to the center. So, what's up with you folks? I'd like to open up to your sharing, to your questions, to your discoveries, to your setbacks. What's it like being you as a human today?
Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Sangha.
Jessica and Michael, hello.
2 days in a row here is a little nuts, but it was interesting because this morning, for the first time in quite a while, and who knows why, huge encounter with doubt. It was just interesting. But I didn't freak out. I just kind of thought, okay, this is the chance to really just look at it and go, oh, hello, welcome. It felt kind of weird, but it did seem to really help. And it was interesting because I really honestly couldn't quite figure out why doubt came in so strong. But at the end of it, it was kind of like, okay, there you are. I think I love you. But it all settled down, and I was able to return to my breath. It was just interesting because I will say, at least this time when doubt really came in, and it's been a while, it was almost like, yeah, I could really see it and begin to feel it. I felt it in my chest first, and then I just kind of watched it move around. I don't know, it was just interesting, but I had to kind of laugh after yesterday morning. I had such a very, loving, almost blissful experience, and it was like, wow, okay, that pendulum took a big swing. So
watch out.
Human, yes.
So can you? Was there content to the doubt that's shareable?
Throughout the content, I think.
Just
I couldn't quite sort it out, so I just figured, okay, you'll let me know if there's something really
great,
really at play.
Yay! Thank you.
So, thanks.
I'm sitting here looking at the two of you. I like seeing the two of you sitting there together, and I've been trying to figure out what is it that I like so much about this medium as compared with meeting at the center, and how often do I get to sit in your living room this close to you and speak of the Dharma together? It's really in a certain way, it's really quite luxurious and beautiful and intimate. So thank you for inviting me into your living room.
Morning, Robert. It's Sherry.
Hello, Sherry.
Morning. I had an interesting experience in the night. My body has difficulty with. I lack. Oh dear, I can't come up with the words. I don't drink enough water, and so sometimes in the night I have terrible cramps in my legs or my feet. I've been really trying hard to watch my intake, to drink more fluids throughout the day, and then that doesn't happen. But obviously I wasn't very good at that. So it happened last night, and this time it was my toes and my arch and my foot, and it just started cramping. Normally, I would just leap out of bed and start walking around to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, Robert talks about allowing the pain, finding out what that's about. This is in the middle of the night. I woke out of a sound sleep, and I thought, I'm just going to go there and see what happens. And it kept cramping, and got so tight, and then it hurts. It hurts a lot. But I just looked at it and watched it, and it went away without leaping out of bed and
whoa.
I found it quite extraordinary.
Thank you, my dear. Yes.
Thank you.
The more stable the mind is, the more we understand and have some mastery of concentration, mindfulness, equanimity, tranquility. When events like that come along, and curiosity, when events like that come along, we're more likely to say, what's happening here? Maybe I need to jump up and get my feet on the floor and stretch that muscle. That may be one strategy. Or maybe I need to get out of bed and go get the medication or whatever. But sometimes we can't do that. And then the capacity to simply say, all right, this is scary and weird, but I am going to just be here in my consciousness and pay attention to this. Really powerful. Funny, I have this silly term, but life throws these bowling balls down the alley, and some of them are small and they're easy to work with, and some of them are medium-sized, and some of them are just humongous. And I think it's wise to practice with the little ones and the medium-sized ones and so on. Stephen Levine put it, it's really important to practice now with the little pains of life, because if you wait till you're dying, it will be like having Jimi Hendrix playing out of super huge speakers right around your ears. How do you pay attention then? Why not start small? So congratulations. That seems like a really a great learning moment.
Hello, Robert. This is Patrick.
Hello, Patrick.
Hi, I have a question about something you just said. I've heard it said that people die as they have lived, and you mentioned that the big bowling balls are the ones that dying is like a big bowling ball that comes down. And I think that in your position, you probably have more experience with that, seeing people's experience with that. And I just wondered if you could comment on that a little bit more.
I think it's true, too, that we age as we've lived, that we if we're curious and we're exploring life, we tend to get curiouser and curiouser. And I've seen what do I want to say? I've seen in my limited experience of watching people through aging and dying that unless there's a willingness and a training of heart and mind for opening, then what happens is closing. and there's less and less willingness to talk about anything, or to avoid the end of life conversations, to avoid the conversations about parting, and therefore also to avoid the conversations about opening. And I'm going to take a liberty here. Somewhere on the screen is Russell Freeland, my dear beloved friend of so many years, and Russ's wife Nancy got cancer, and we got to talk through her passing, and oh, here's the tears. Theirs was a beautiful example of a couple who used the last months to have an exquisite opening, the most intimate years, as Russ has said before, of their life. They touched into what marriage can be and what relationship really can be, which is a mutual opening. And that both of them had the propensity to be doing that. And so at the end, they had the opportunity to really do it. But if we don't have that propensity and we're not practicing it, I'm heard there are on occasions, remarkable openings near the end, but we tend to continue doing what we've been doing our whole life. Hence the notion, why not practice now and practice opening more and more and more now, and being willing to face what's happening now. That makes sense?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Russell, my friend, I trust that was okay? Yeah. It was so beautiful watching you guys. I can share this with, what's our time? Oh yeah, we have another moment or two or three. I worked as a social worker for a hospice here in Portland, and mostly I was a rubber stamp. They needed a family to see a social worker to get Medicare payment. So I would go and meet the family and do a psychosocial assessment, and then they could get care. I developed a wonderful strategy for getting the information from the couple. It was mostly people south of Portland. That doesn't matter, does it? But I would go, and they'd been married for 50 years or 60 years, and some long marriages. And my strategy was I would go in and I would admire them a little bit, and then say, "You've been married for 50 some years. I've been married for 12. What's your secret? How have you done it?" And all of a sudden the stories came out, and then it would give me plenty to write my, quote, psychosocial assessment. Anyway, in one instance there was an elderly gentleman who was Catholic, who had a little Catholic shrine around him, so I wound up speaking Catholic vocabulary with him. And I came in, and they had reduced his medication. So he had metastatic cancer in the spine, and so he had the containers of the spinal cord, the bones. He had cancer in there growing and kind of blowing it apart, which is really painful. And they were doing what they could with medication and radiation and so on, but he was dying imminently. Even with the medication reduced, when I came in, he was gritting his teeth and tense. And I offered to breathe with him. I said, "Why don't we try this?" And as I said, "You just relax, and breathe, and I'll breathe with you. And on the out breath, when you breathe out, I will make a sound, ah." So I was doing the ah breath with him, and he breathed in and I'd breathe in, and then as he breathed out, at the very moment when he started to breathe out, I would join him. If a person is breathing really fast, you can breathe every second breath with them. What's important is that you relaxedly pay attention to them, and the person who's lying down gets a remarkably intimate thing to do. If you have a friend or a lover you'd like to be really close with, try this with them. They'll know the moment your mind wanders, and that because you miss them, but then they'll also know it when you're really there. It's a marvelous intimacy creator. You sit not touching, but one person sitting, the other person lying. So anyway, he got calmer and calmer, and calmer and calmer, and he got so that he was just breathing quietly and at ease. And then we had to finish. It was time for me to go, and I invited him to remember that he could do this anytime. This wasn't something that I had done. It's him doing it by paying attention to his breathing. And we moved out of the meditation, and he said a couple of beautiful words, which were, "Young man, this is the only thing anyone has shown me that works. The pain's still there, but I'm not troubled by it." It's not an uncommon story. I haven't had the opportunity to do that kind of thing very many times, but Stephen Levine did it for years. And what happens is, and this was true in his case, he kept his medication reduced so he could be more conscious with his family as he died. And he did die rather soon thereafter. So this is a, now of course he continued to have the morphine pump, and used all the benefits of Western medicine, but he was able to die much more consciously than otherwise. And I guess I could mention also my dear friend Ron Nato, MD of a very famous doctor here in town, who asked two of the cancer docs up on the hill, OHSU, who he should see if he wanted to die consciously, and they both independently recommended me. And he came to meet me, and we hit it off. And for a year before he died, we met, and he meditated, and he was another one of those people who opened and opened and opened, and he became he would be fine with me talking about this. He gave lectures and traveled to Seattle, and there's video of him as he kept taking this message back to the medical world, that it's possible to deal with pain through opening and loving. He was already a great emissary of love throughout his whole life. Incredibly generous man. But he just lit up at the end, more and more. And so that's there for us. But I think it behooves us to make the choice soon. I am observing a family now where they haven't made that choice, and where contraction is happening, and more no one can talk about death, and no one can talk about the pain, and so everyone's getting more and more isolated and lonely, and it's really sad. So there, I didn't know I would talk about that this morning. Thank you, Patrick. I look over here because I've got two screens, and the one over here, Patrick, that's such an interesting paint job. Bold. The house, it's cool. Thank you for the question, because it really opened up something good there. Well, we need to go soon. It's a little after 8. Anybody else with anything? Please be bold. I'm out looking in screens 2 and 3 amongst the lurkers. I see you there. Oh, Dave Mayer. Thank you, Dave. Dave is advertising my book on page 3 here. Funny. It's everywhere. I see it on billboards.
Robert, this is Had. I want to request that someone get a copy of the book for the Barking Dog Library if it's not been done already.
It's been done. They're on the way.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I have a box of 100 of them on the way.
Robert, I think you'd be happy to know that you're 44,506 on the bestsellers on Amazon.
40. You mean? I'm competitive. That's great.
In the Buddhism category, you're number 275.
Wow, that's hot. Funny.
I want to know how Amazon is offering used copies.
They all when people are done with them, they will put them up there, and you can.
How can it be used?
Oh! I don't know. That's a very interesting question, actually. Well, maybe people read the first paragraph and said, forget it. Nice try. Who knows? I feel rather mirthful this morning. It's nice.
Robert, I wanted to tell you something.
Margaret. Margie.
I ordered the book through Powell's.
Great.
And it was due to some problems with being on my online account. I actually spoke to people on the phone. And I just wanted to say that they were so kind. And helped me figure out my password and get my online account going. And they got my orders, and they explained if you order your book, it takes longer to get it because it's coming from a further warehouse. And so I ordered other things which come sooner because they have them, and you can decide where you want to pick them up. And so they're working through a very difficult time, and I love Powell's. It's just one of the things about Portland that's so special. So it was a really fun way to connect with the business, and so
Thank you. I really like the interaction of how I purchase something is of importance to me. And then if I've had a nice encounter with it, every time I encounter that object, I have the nice encounter in mind. I'd always pay more to have a pleasant encounter than get the best deal and not. So that's nice to hear about Powell's. Powell's City of Books. Imagine there's nobody in that store. So it's weird, isn't it? Well, friends, anybody else got something else? Oh, there's Stephanie. Hi. I guess we'll sing this morning then, for sure. Well, last call. Here we go. Thanks for coming, everybody. Unmute all. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu,
Waiting this whole time to sing with you guys.
Oh, great. Yay.
Say bye. Good day, Stephanie. Good, everyone. Bye. Everyone else have a good day too.
Goodbye, dear ones. Have a lovely day.
Sure.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Goodbye, friends on YouTube.